The next book is Slaying Giants, Finding Your Courage and Conquering Fear. And this book will be presented by Destiny Ibe, Tamilore Elusoji, and Lonimi David. Let us put our hands together for them as they come up.
Good morning, church. My name is Destiny Ibe, and this is my group. Please introduce yourselves.
My name is Tamilore Elusoji.
And my name is Lonimi David.
Over the past few weeks, me and my group have been reading a book called Slaying Giants. This book teaches us to have faith and courage at all times. My group will summarize and answer the 2 questions that I prepared for them.
Good morning, church. My name is Lonimi, and today I'll be summarizing chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Chapter 1 summary is about God can turn your fear to courage, and if you have anxiety, ask God to take it away. Because the author in the book had anxiety because she was talking about the story in her life, but she asked God to take it away, and God took it away. And chapter 2 summary is have faith in God's power so he can take anything bad from you. Because if you don't have faith in God, that means you're not trusting your life in God's hands. But if you have faith in God, that means you are trusting your life in God's hands. Chapter 3 summary is about Esther and how she was humble and how God helped her to talk to the king. Because God gave her the bravery and the boldness to talk to the king, because she could have died or she could have been punished if she didn't talk to the king. But God made her to be bold to talk to the king. Thank you.
Your 2 questions are, how can you learn to lean on the Lord and have faith in his power?
In the book, the author says by just putting everything in God's hands and by trusting in the Lord with all your heart. Just like it says in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Thank you.
Your next question is, why should we live in obedience and faith?
Just like Abraham, he obeyed and God blessed him, and he became the father of all nations. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6 says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. And one of the ways to please God is to have faith in God. Thank you.
Next, Tamilore will summarize her chapters and answer the questions.
Slaying Giants is a book about leaning, overcoming, and many other things. But in chapter 5, the narrator tells us not to fear and to lean on God. Chapter 6 is about how we should be faithful to God no matter what happens to us. And in the book, it tells us about the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego courageously stood up for their faith and remained faithful to God. As such, they were sentenced to death by fire from King Nebuchadnezzar.
Thank you. Your question is, how can you remain faithful to God even in hard times?
You can pray and ask him to help you during these hard times, and you can remain faithful by listening to his word, taking it, and using it in life. 1 Samuel 12:24 talks about how you can only fear and serve the Lord faithfully with all your heart and consider all the great things he has done for you. Thank you.
Your last question is, how can you overcome troubles that keep coming your way?
You can constantly pray to God and read the Bible on how you can overcome those troubles. Luke 10:19 also talks about how Jesus gave his disciples the ability to overcome all the power of the enemy. So from there, we should all pray and be loyal to God, and you will overcome all your troubles. Thank you.
I also picked up one thing from each of the 4 chapters that I read. The first one from chapter 7 is that Satan will always try to magnify our flaws, or in other words, to make our flaws more important or serious than it really is. and make us insecure, and try to turn our eyes away from God, in hope that by doing so we lose our courage. In chapter 8, the power of prayer, it was saying to be persistent, and to be persistent, you have to have faith. If you're praying for something or about something, you have to be persistent, because when you're persistent in praying, you have faith in God that He will answer your prayer. In chapter 9, preparing for battle, one point from the book it was talking about was to be courageous. In this part of the book, it had introduced us to a new character named Hezekiah. He was considered a very righteous and courageous man. He was considered this because he always put effort to put God first and serve the needs of his kingdom by bringing their burdens to God. He even had the courage to introduce a new way of life to the people of Israel, but some didn't want to follow. In the book, it said he sent invitations to the people of Israel, inviting them to return to the Lord, but some of them just scorned and ridiculed his messengers. Hezekiah was an example to all new believers who face opposition when they begin their journey through faith. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord, regardless of the oppositions that he faced. In chapter 10, it was talking about submitting ourselves to Christ. In the book, it said, "He who submits himself to Christ is Lord of himself, as none else are. He has a light within which teaches him what sin is. He has a love within which outs the flame of temptation, as the sun does a coal fire. He has a motive to resist. He has power for resistance. He has hope in resisting. Only this are the walls broken down and rebuilt." This basically means that those who put their trust in God have control over themselves so that they don't sin. In conclusion, the Lord wants us to be courageous and have faith at all times. That was the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. So that book is about slaying giants. And in the book, it talks about how every one of us has a lion, a roaring lion inside of us waiting to come out. If only we'll just take the first step in acknowledging that God has given us everything we need in Him to face our giants. And our giants come in so many different forms. Could be spiritual, could be physical, could be mental, could be financial. It comes in different ways. But the book reminds us that today is a good day to step out, face that fear, trust in God, and slay that giant. And God will help us in Jesus' name.